Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing fantastic today. So if you're new here, I hope you'll take a moment to look around, poke around at some of the different videos and everything else. Give a like and a subscribe. This is one of the newer paintings that I've been wanting to work on for a while now. And the line art that you see here will be available on Patreon from the patrons. So that way they can access them. I'm using the standard oil colors palette that you can get from Escape Motions. This is Rebelle 6 with my Huion tablet and it done as well. So what we're going to do here is kind of going to be a mixed media of things. I'm going to use a lot of the different tools that are available through Rebelle 6 and may even use some of the more advanced ones as well. This is going to also be an entry for Escape Motions' contest that they're running for Snow Scene, and which is going to be interesting to put my bid in on because they actually used one of my pieces for the promotion of it. So it'd be kind of interesting. But anyway, I'm going to work on this and kind of go over everything, my thought processes for what I'm doing as we go through it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on the sky and going to go with a brighter color. I have a neutral bluish gray here for the undertone and the underpainting, so that way we can use it, but I'm going to really punch the colors up on this quite a bit. So I've got the cobalt blue selected here. And I think for right now, I'm just going to grab the airbrush and I'm going to put this line art. Oops, didn't mean to double click it. I'm going to put this line art up on top of everything. And I'll even set it to multiply. So that way I can see through it completely. All right, so I've got the airbrush here. I'm going to use the right bracket to scale up. And then I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can move around the canvas a little more freely. So I'm going to put some of this blue in here and just kind of soften it out. Lower the opacity down to about 46. I'm going to go into here. By clicking on it, I'm going to come down, and just basically what I'm doing here is adding white to it. Okay. Just going to get a bit of a transition to a little bit lighter color. And I think I'm going to even come over a little bit, come up a little bit, highlight the center just a little more. Like so. Across more of a sky blue color. I'm going to switch over. Well, actually, I could just stay here and go with the blending that it provides. Just give that a soft blend. And then I'm going to go up to filter. One of the new things, Gaussian filter. I'm going to apply it. Carry this across just a little bit more. Alright, so now we got a really soft blue. Bit of a gradation coming across. Giving a really good feeling that there's a brighter light over here. And I'm actually going to grab just this one again. I'm going to come into here. Really come down, adding more. And then on the very edge there, add just a bit of a halo. Perhaps the sun kind of streaming across. Lower this down even more. something like 10%. Just kind of streak that. So that gives me a little bit of a hint of a sunbeam coming across and laying it out. So there we go. All right. So now I'm going to make a layer above this and do for the clouds. So I've got these clouds here. I'm going to bring that back down. I'm also going to come back to here. And if you're using 5, you can just paint these in. If you're using 6, you can paint these in and then warp them down. So we'll play around a little bit with that. With this grunge brush. Yeah, I'll stick with this one. All right. So now first I'm going to start with this. I'll go back to this rough dry brush. I like it a little better for this. If you don't have any of my brushes and you want to see about getting them, they are available on Gumroad. Lifetime updates. I actually have a whole bunch of brushes I'm about to release out and some stencils and stuff too. I just want to soften this, kind of ditch some of the texture from the paint. Quick key is that you can hit B. Back to the brush as you were using previously. Now I could come over to Visual Settings, which is F12 on the keyboard. I've got it on the other screen because I like to keep it over there, and I could just turn off Impasto Depth. But the reason I'm not is because I might want to have some impasto for like the rocks and stuff. So that's why I'm leaving it like it is. But if you didn't want to have any kind of texture and you wanted more of a smooth paint, then just turn off the texture. Thought behind this is to try and go with kind of a, one of those crisp winter mornings or days, like where it's just snowed and it's just absolutely cold as can be, but yet it's crystal clear, like all of the stuff's been knocked out of the air, and that's kind of the thought process here. Okay. Kill the lines so I can see past it a little bit. It's good to always, when you're painting, to not keep the line art up too much, because it'll actually fill in on your eyes for some of the detail that's not there, and you'll think it's communicating a lot more than it is. Grab just a little bit of purplish color. I'm going to smear that in. Something like that. jumping over to the eraser because I want to kind of sculpt it a little bit. I'll probably there we go. All right, so I think that works for that. So let's move to the mountains. I'm just mixing this over here. To get a feel for it. So I just want to have this be kind of a neutral. But see how I've got this texture here? This is why I was saying I wanted to keep some of the impasto texture. So in some of my videos you've seen where I would paint this shape and then use it to make a kind of a mask from it in paint. You can use one of the new things that they have for Rebelle, and that is a clipping mask. So you make a new layer, okay? Define the shape, which I think it's just easier to go ahead and do it with the selection tool. So you kind of lay out your shape, and then you can go in and refine it. so. And then just, pick any color that you want for the layer. So like, for example, I'll just go with black because it's easy. Okay, so I'll go with the black color. Then all I need to do is come up to this layer here, clipping mask. So now it clips it down to here. So now if I want to come back into here, I can select this and then just paint inside the clipping mask. And it will keep colors that I want. Now the nice thing about that is that if I come down to this one and say, for example, I wanted to make this more of my shadow color, I can kind of mix it around, play around with it, and get the feel for what I want. And then I can use this layer to kind of blend over top of this layer, but it's non-destructive. Like so. And the cool thing is that I can really kind of change and twist it around by defining what shape this is, So actually I think what I'll do is just go ahead and select all of this. Oops, missed a corner. And fill it. There we go. So now I've got all this selected, and this can work as my underpainting down here. Hide my line art for a minute. Then come back up to here, and I can create another clipping mask on top that'll still default to this one and just keep playing around. I can really kind of have some fun with it. Go a little bit redder. Really play around with that. It just gives you some extra freedom. Now if there's something like that, like there's an artifact left, all I have to do is come down here, and with the eraser tool I can erase it and hide it. So that way if there's something about my drawing that I really like and I really want to keep, like a certain shape or whatever, I can come back in and really kind of sculpt it how I want it to be. This gives me that really nice layering effect. It lets me really play around with the colors. And right now this is just, just really pretty much the underpainting of just blocking in my colors for where I want them to be. Now what I did right there is I pushed 4 and turned it into more of a blending brush so I could smear this around. And I'm looking at my preview window on the other monitor so I can kind of keep the big picture of how everything looks, shadow wise and so forth. Kind of pull this forward. So remember, if something's darker, it's going to look like it's closer to you. If something is lighter, it's further away. And a lot of times you can add a little bit of blue to it as well. Okay. So all I'm doing here is just trying to get the basic information in from my drawing. On my drawing, I kind of had an idea of where I wanted shadows to kind of push and pull stuff. So for this, I can be very loose. It makes it a lot more fun. I'm just pushing the space bar and dragging with my cursor. Bring this back, turn off the line art for them. And even with that, you can get a really good feel for like where the lights and darks and the different parts are. Helps give you an idea of where everything's being hit. So obviously this right in here is going to become my central focus. So this is going to end up being really punched up in the light. Snow and stuff through here. Okay. So let me zoom in. Go back to my clipping mask. Use the mouse wheel to zoom in. Look for some of these artifacts. Okay, come back up here to the top. Just kind of want to pull in some of these. Areas here. Something like this. Again, just spacebar, click, drag. Using 5 and 1 to switch between the different brush types. 5 is the eraser. 1 is the base marker. Or really base brush, because it's the same for all of these. Now, you don't have to be as controlled by your line art. I'm just doing this because I spend a lot of time drawing this out, looking at references and drawing it. And I kind of really like the line art in my head, the way it appeared. So I want to, as far as the overall shapes and stuff, so I'm really trying to keep that in here. You can see how by using the clipping mask it makes it really nice, because I've already done the painting. Now it's just a matter of what part of it do I want to show and what part do I not. All done just by controlling the area that shows with the clipping mask. It's one of the things I love about digital art, is being able to get in a lot closer than I ever could on a canvas. So even though I tend to paint loose and more impressionistic, I can still get in there and get some details that give even more refined details just by the appearance. So in other words, I don't have to sit here and paint it photorealistic, but I can add different layers of texture and so forth to make it look like it has a lot of more detail than it does. Let me zoom out. I think that's going to work for that. All right. So a lot of these dark areas here that I've got in, those are really rocks. So I want to a little bit. So I'm going to grab my stencil. Look ratio. Right click, drag this around. Now I just switched to the cat's tongue because I didn't like the oily look that I was getting. Let's see, I can start laying in some of these. Now I can even switch to like my mountain knife brush and lay in some of this texture. Okay, so we got a really good underpainting started here. I'm going to save this real quick and then we'll keep going. Alright, so now we got that saved. So let's move on to some of the foreground stuff. So looking here at the snow. Actually on this clipping I can go ahead and just throw in some of these. Oops, let me do that real quick. Alright, so now here on the snow, I'm going to select this color. I'm going to go into here. So you can see that's already kind of a purplish color, which is what I really kind of want, but I'm going to bring it over a little bit more towards the bluish side. Up about here. Okay, so now what I want to do here is I can take a soft oil brush, or I could even go with an airbrush. I can start laying in where the snow is going to be. And this is, again, still part of the underpainting. So my light, remember, is coming from here. So I want to keep that in mind in the future. More blue to that. It's almost what I want. Smear it so I kind of blend my color. So it's not quite that color. It's not quite that one either. It's a much nicer blue. some of this, like I'm doing here, kind of want to go with the direction that the land is going. So like all this is kind of going this direction, so my overall brush strokes are kind of going that way. And then when I get down here, I'm flattening it out a little bit more. The nice thing about having this below it is if I miss anything or if I want to play around with it, it doesn't really matter because that kind of goes with the overall color scheme. But even just with this bit of information and staying in the mid-ground for values and for hue as well, it really has that feel of snow kind of being in shadowy areas. And the nice thing too is that because I can paint on multiple layers, I can really kind of play around with what's going where, get all my ideas down, and then start to go back and refine it. So again, we've got some nice loose strokes, but we've got some really interesting information already here of kind of where we want stuff to be and how to kind of play it out. I think I've got enough info here that I can kind of move past the line drawing and just kind of start going back and forth to it. So, with that in mind, what we can start doing now is really kind of moving forward with some of the different directions that we want to go. This mountains, make a new layer, go back and start really working on these. Turn off lock size ratio. I'm going to stretch this out. Oops. Right click to drag it around. I'm going to lay in some color. So now what I'm doing here is just trying to get a feel for cutting in some shadows. Just trying to kind of give a little bit of softness to some of this. I'm really zoomed in, so I'm really looking a lot at my preview window to get a feel for if I've got the right stuff. But for over here, I can just look to see, do I have the right colors to give it that look. So I just turn the visual settings down to 3 instead of, okay. So again, just kind of keep sculpting in for where the light is kind of hitting along here. Switch to pastel. Sometimes it gives a little bit better rocky feel. So all I'm doing here is just kind of some jagged lines to hint at stone. A lot of what I would do with this, but I want to get kind of a different, and so more of a custom type look. Pencil and the pastel. So for this, you just got to kind of think of how your stones are facing, what direction, cascading off. Just little strokes of color. I'm just going to kind of soften some of these here and there. So I'm still using the same brush, but I'm using it as a blending brush now. Kind of really helps pull it together. And once I've got that in there, I can grab one of my other stencils, like this rock one, for example. Highlights and some darker spots. So that gives a nice random breaking up of everything. So I just need to knock back some of this texture. So that's giving a nice kind of a feel. So what I want is some of the striation in here. Don't want quite too chaotic and a little too distracting. So I'm just going to kind of blend some of it together here. Now there is always a point in every painting that every artist I've ever known has, where they're like, should I just stop? Should I just quit? Don't give in to that voice. Just paint. A good portion of the time, that voice is a complete idiot. Just wants you to take the lazy way out and not push yourself further, because pushing yourself further requires effort. Give in to that. Just keep painting. And I say that because that little voice is going off in my head right now. Should I just stop recording and stop painting? I'm telling myself again and again in my head, just keep painting. Because I know that it will come together. So like Dory says, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. And part of with this painting more than others is that I don't really have a way to show you to do this, to use stencils, because the rocks that I'm looking at for reference from a lot of different things, they all seem to kind of have this similar thing of where they just kind of change around and they twist and they turn. So this is just a matter of taking your time and painting it. This dry knife works really great for these rocks too, by the way. So just give yourself license to play. Don't go for perfection. Just go for fun. By building up the textures with those other things, with the stencils and so forth, I am able to get a nice underpainting for some of this. This right is not in the right spot for when I was looking further zoomed out. But this is one of those things where you really need to look at reference. So really dig into some reference shots. Make sure you've got stuff that you have permission to use if you're going to get really close to it. So you don't want to violate a copyright law. When I'm using bought references, got permission. Without a lot of detail. This stencil has a lot of really cool, gritty texture to it. So I'm just kind of using it to get some extra highlights here and there. I can soften it a little bit with the airbrush. Alright, let me save this, and then we're going to come back in and start pulling in some of the snow to bring it so it's looking like it's, instead of floating over these rocks, it's going to look like it's actually sitting on them. Alright, so I'm going to switch over to this flat, thick, maybe. Just start streaking this in, kind of following what I already laid out previously on the snow. But I'm drawing, painting a little bit, picking up, painting a little bit, picking up. It kind of lays it in there. You can also go with, let this knife soft. What I want to keep some of these broken areas here, but to also keep kind of some smoothed out areas. Something kind of like that. So you can see how that starts to really pull this into snow. Let's zoom back. I think I want to do is add more blue to this. Because it's such a blue sky, I'm going to get a lot of blue reflection. Yeah. And what I want to do here is kind of follow these striations I was painting earlier and just give some spots where maybe snow was sticking to it ever so slightly. What I'm doing here is I want to bring a little bit more of a lighter color into it to kind of pull some of this forward. Kind of like that. So I'm looking for high spots where maybe some snow could gather. Kind of like these. Maybe it's going to be melting off soon, maybe not. Just some random spots here and there. But see how this kind of breaks up and leaves those spaces and gives that interesting look. Just by changing pressure and building it up. Trying to put a little bit more in these shadows, so that way maybe it doesn't look like it's, or it looks like areas that maybe the snow hasn't melted off yet. But I'm not trying to apply as much pressure because I want some of this darker brown to show through. Maybe something like that. So just kind of keep building up the texture, looking at where you think the high spots are, where you think it should lay down, any solid areas. The main thing too is that for areas like this, where this rock is in front of this, really give it a nice crisp edge on the top. It's going to help separate it. Now, it doesn't have to be a solid edge, as far as like, don't want to draw a line going across here, but something along these lines. Let's see how this is starting to pull it all together by bringing in the lighter shades. And we're going to go one step brighter too, actually maybe even 2 steps brighter, but we'll use an overlay layer to kind of accomplish some of that. But just by continually working across, going back and forth. For here, what I want to try and do is kind of give this a fade across. Again, paying attention to your angles. Just kind of drift the snow in. In certain areas, go more solid. Feel free to switch to 4 so you can really kind of smear this around. Remember, when I say switch to 4, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That gives that real nice snow feeling to it. And then back to 4. And again, always staying conscious of which direction the landscape would be moving, especially with these rocks and stuff. Adjusting my preview window so I can see it better on the other screen. Really love how the true pigment just kind of smears across and gives a really good feel of painting with traditional paints. But even when you're doing something like this, keep in mind, again, light's from here. So try to think about how is that even reflected light going to bounce across stuff. Let's make another layer on top of this one. Turn off pigment, go to overlay. Across to here and down. Up. So this is going to give us a really bright whitish color. To start highlighting with. So, and also some of our rock face. I want to make sure and keep my shadows kind of out of it. Knock it back just a little bit here and there. It's not so over the top. Too yellow. So I'm just taking most of it back out off of that because I want to come back in with a different color and do the highlight. I can still definitely do the snow with this color. So I changed it to a peach color just to slightly change the flavor of it. Up just a little bit. trying to just make some sparkles here and pull a little bit of this out of that so deep blue. Remember what I was saying about even though it's in shadow. And the more you kind of smooth this around, the more transparent it becomes, the softer it becomes. So now let's make another layer up here. We're going to a multiply layer. I've selected my clipping mask so I can just use it real quick as a quick guide. Go to this bluish color. Just try to punch in extra shadows here and there. And even with these, you can just kind of soften them out. It's kind of competing too much with this right through here, so I want to kind of push it back. Right, now the only other thing I think I want to do here is maybe add a few sticks and stuff. Just throwing a little bit of black and brown in here. All right, now I want to add in just highlights. Just to kind of break it up a little bit. Flock of white birds in here. Just to me, I always like the way it looks. So what I'm doing here is adding a few sparklers. Just a few spots here and there to kind of grab the light. All right, so I think we're about where we can call this one done. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. What do you think? Anything that's missing? Anything that you have a question about? Anything at all? Just let me know. And I'd be happy to go over it and answer it. I think for this one, I think we can call it done. So let me know your thoughts. I hope you got a lot out of this just by watching, me talking about it some here and there, and giving some different directions. So thanks for being here. Thanks for, just letting me show you how I do stuff, and how I go through different things. One other thing I would suggest, maybe if you do yours, is go back and look for these little spots here and there that you can maybe clean up. Like something is sticking over top of something else that makes sense. Kind of push it back a little bit. And just kind of manipulate it. Okay. Again, I appreciate you. For those of you that are patrons, I really appreciate your support. It's growing steadily. I hope to be able to grow it even more, and offer even more stuff to help everybody. Couldn't do it without your input and without your just being there to offer financial support, feedback. I've gotten a lot of really good questions from people that have really spawned a few more videos and stuff like that. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. Hope you got a lot out of it, and I look forward to painting the next one.